Let's get started. Starting with 4 equals 10. 4 equals 10 was a game that I found. I was bored at the end of last year, and I wanted something to play on my phone at my in-laws' house. And I found that as a mobile game. It's a puzzle game where what you do is you try to make things equal 10. So you get like 4 numbers and you have all the mathematical operations to do it. But you have to use all 4 numbers. And there were some that were really, really hard. And there was one that I couldn't figure out. But that's because I'm stupid. But yeah, there are 500 puzzles. Really fun. I enjoyed it. But it is still just like a little mobile game. So I think we're going to start in C tier here. We might move it up if I want to. It's definitely not D tier. For the record, we have Game of the Year and Anti-Game of the Year. Those will not be filled in until the end of this tier list if you haven't been here for one of these before. Outside of that, the rankings are pretty simple. S, A, B, C, D. That's it. Generally, the ones in D tier are the contenders for Anti-Game of the Year, and the ones in S tier are the contenders for Game of the Year. So, next up, A Short Hike. Short Hike was fun. I enjoyed A Short Hike. We played that at Run's request due to CC saying, hey, you should play A Short Hike. It is fun. It's a cute little game. And it felt like there was a real world that you just got a snapshot of. I think if it had a larger development team and more time, it could have been better by adding more depth to the items that you get and the environment that you play in. But overall, I enjoyed A Short Hike, and I'll put it in B tier. Ape Escape. The apes were on the loose. They had escaped from their prison, and they had gone back in time to change the course of history. It was... I wrote in my notes that this game is a true... The full release of Multiverses, it could be, Viv. Why is S above A? I don't know. You just downloaded 4 equals 10? Enjoy game time. Enjoy. If you're looking for a puzzle game on PC, by the way, I do recommend a game called Temetsi. It is Minesweeper, but real puzzles. They're not random. If Team Asobi makes the next Ape Escape, it will be my game of the year. Almost guaranteed. Ape Escape, such a good... such a fantastic innovator of the PS1. Very fun design, unique controls, interesting levels, interesting interactions with the environment. Alright, Yam. Sorry you can't make it for the rest of the stream, but it will exist if you want to come back and watch this later. I appreciate you being here, and see you next year. The main downsides... PS1, bad graphics processing. I don't like the depth perception. I don't like the lag. And sometimes the controls are a bit clunky. Nah, Viv, I don't put demos on here. Yeah, I guess the rules of what goes on here. Things that are games that I've consistently replayed, so like Smash Ultimate, not going to be on here. Demos are not going to be on here. And that's pretty much it. If I played it this year, it's on here, other than those exceptions. So Ape Escape... I think I've put this a little... I did a little bit too far down. This is S. There's not much room at the top outside of Ape Escape. So if Ape Escape was A tier, it would have been real hard. Astrobot literally won Game of the Year. It's a fantastic game. It has so much content. It has so much enjoyment. And nothing gets old with that game. There's no part where you're like, man, they've been doing this over and over and over. It's constantly new stuff, and I love all of it except for the fact that I'm not a huge PlayStation fan, so I didn't get so many of the references with the characters and stuff that would have really thrown it over the top. But it's still an S tier game. Just off of the merit of the gameplay alone, it is an S tier game. I do wish that there was one more action that you could do. I wish Astrobot had like a little laser gun or something, because sometimes the enemies were tough to avoid. All right, Blanc. This is one of those games that I played with my wife. It is very much one of those games where it tries to tell a story without words. And it is a nice story, but it is not a game. Like, it is not super gamey. It just kind of exists. You kind of just like walk towards the next objective most of the time. It is very artsy though. I don't know. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I didn't. You thought Blanc rocked? I would love if I could have jumped to something or done something. It was like all the actions were things that were preset actions. Was my main issue with it. All right, Castle Crashers Remastered. Castle Crashers. It had some moments, but overall, I think the game is really made to be played with 4 people. Because when you play with 2 people, things get a little overwhelming. And what I did was I played it with my wife. I wish I could have like switched characters a little bit easier, because the level up system kind of limits you from, like, once you're already leveling up with one character, switching to another character is really tough. Yeah, that's what I would think, Dark Force. But yeah, I bet it's a lot of fun with 4 people. It is kind of okay with 2 people. So I'm going to put it in B tier. This will be in alphabetical order on each tier. I'll organize the tiers later post-stream and put it on the backlogged, where I have the other things that I have done like that. Let me show you that, in case you guys are curious. Maybe, if it loads. Might not be loading today. Come back to it. Are you serious, Game Time? That's crazy. Alright, Cavern of Dreams. That was another game that we had on the 3D platformer request list. Just like Ape Escape and Astrobot. And A Short Hike. Yeah, it took me a while to go back through and, like, get it current, CC. But now that I do keep it current, I like it a lot. I did not get to play the new Mario Party, no. Cavern of Dreams. It's a fun game. It's a cool callback to N64 platformers, but it didn't have like the same magic as retro games did for me. Levels were really fun, had some good elements to the platforming and unique mechanics, like the tail slap on the ground to do a roll. But they felt a bit janky at times, especially with the more involved movement options, even though I liked them in theory. Some of the collectibles were a bit too cryptic to find with the given hints as well. It was fun that there were Easter eggs to find upon finding all the eggs, and it was also nice to have for finishing the encyclopedia. That's what I have in my notes. So I want to put this game in A tier. I think it could be B. It's right there on the in-between of A and B for me. But we'll put it in A for now. Almost immediately after Cavern of Dreams was Corn Kids 64. It's a pretty cool game. It has a great set of movement options, which led to limited but very fun bounds to platform in. The levels are really fun but lacked quantity. My least favorite part is that it felt like it took from Rareware platformers in every way except for having things to collect. almost everything to collect was the experience stuff, and that didn't feel great to collect because there was so much of it that it didn't feel impressive to be collected. The exploration and design of the levels outside of not feeling like the collecting mattered, even though it ultimately did matter because you needed to go through doors, was very good and enjoyable, and I had a great time playing through the game. If there was a better way to track down missing experience, I would have 100%ed it. But it did not help you in that way. And so for that reason, it's going to just be A tier, because it was a fun game still, for sure. Disney Illusion Island. This is a game that I purchased for playing with my wife. We've been enjoying it. It is a little weird because it's like a Metroidvania, except you don't fight things. Like, you don't have combat abilities at all. There are enemies to dodge, but that's kind of it. It's a platforming Metroidvania, 2D platforming Metroidvania. I don't really know exactly where I want to rank this game yet. It is fun in yeah, me too, sup. But it's fun, but it's not super fast paced. It's got some the dialogue is great, the music's great. But overall, I think it's going to lack a little depth without the fights and without there's a lot of backtracking that is just backtracking for the sake of backtracking. So I think overall this one's going to end up in B tier. Again, still in the middle of this one, so it might be a little bit better than that. But yeah, or it could be worse than that too, I guess. Next up, Earthworm Jim 3D. My experience this year on Earthworm Jim 3D is D tier. We're going to come back to that. So right now we've shelved Earthworm Jim. We said we're going to look at this later, and we're going to skip it in the 3D platformer list right now. And that's because it was a pain, technically. It is just awful to get it to work on my PC and to get it to stream. And then once you get it to work, every time you close the game, you have to reset all your settings, your controller settings, your graphic settings, all of it. And then the game itself. You have to collect all the udders, which is tough enough to do, just as a given goal. You have to collect a lot of the marbles, 950 out of 1,000. And the boss fights are horrendous. I don't have fun with them, and they're very difficult. So, for that reason... Oh, and then the thing that really made me stop playing is there is the game soft locks, or hard locks, I guess. The control... No, it'd be soft lock. It tells you, hey, hit the jump button to continue. And then you hit the jump button, it doesn't do anything. So, for that reason, it'll be in D tier for this year. I will put this back on the game tier list when we come back to it. Frogun. Frogun was fun. I had a good time playing Frogun. It had some quirks. It had some good, interesting level design, and it felt almost like an arcade game, but with progression. The main mechanic is really clever, and of course, you know me, I love my tongue platforming games. I loved figuring out speedrun strats and the cheesy wall climb strats. That was really funny. I didn't like the platforms that appeared only when you were close to them, and if I could fix one thing in the game, it would be the targeting reticle, saying that your grapple's going to hit, and then it just misses. And then you hit the button again, because you're like, oh, I'm going to fall a little bit, and then I'm going to hit it, and you're still too far above, and it misses. It was annoying to do 100% playthrough, because I had to grind coins for 3 hours after doing every other thing in the game. Eventually, I'll play the sequel when it gets requested, which is called Frogun Encore, if anybody wants to request that. And hopefully the fun continues and it fixes the little issues. On that note, it will be A tier. Definitely a fun game. I enjoyed it. Next up, we have Garfield Lasagna World. Oh, I want to mention this real quick. Since we have the indie 3D platformer list right here. The indie 3D platformer sale ends on December 31st at 11:59:59 Eastern Time. So, if you want to get an indie platformer in for cheap on the 3D list, the sale ends soon. You have a little over 24 hours. I do accept bribes, that's true. Yo, Bunko with the Seal World request. I will accept it. Bunko, we will play Seal World sometime around December of next year if the trend continues of how long it takes me to get through these games. But with the platform sale ending, it'll be a little bit harder for people to buy them. Okay, on that note, next thing, Garfield. It's definitely indie, Bunko. Garfield Lasagna World Tour. It's a silly game. It has very monotone voice acting that added to the experience. It is very Garfield core, as the kids would say. Yeah, you definitely get to see the whole world in this game, in the Lasagna World Tour, because you get to go to some of your favorite places like Pyramid, Mexican City. That's the name of the place in the game. And Venice. That's it. That's all the place. And Muncie, Indiana, of course. The gameplay was centered around power-ups and using Odie as a tool, which was pretty fun, but it did get repetitive at times. And there was a stark lack of depth with a lot of clunk. So, overall, this game is C tier, but I did get a good laugh out of it. Your grandpa is from Mexican City. Seal World 2 doesn't exist. I'm confident. I don't know that information. Oh, yo, backlog loaded. Oops. Can it load again? Yeah, Seal World 2 doesn't exist. Kid, can you refund that? Okay, here we go. You guys see this? Yeah. Yeah, I have different lists on my backlogged, if you guys wanted to see it. And in these lists, you can see my 2022 and 2023 lists, my top 20 games, and my pick a platformer list, how those rank up. Just want to give that little shout out there. Even if you don't use backlog yourself, you can go look at that stuff. Okay. Next up, we have Hey Pikmin. This game I'm in the middle of. I said to myself, you have 100%ed Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go check out Hey Pikmin. You need to know what the other real Pikmin game is. And real, by real, I mean not Pikmin Bloom, the mobile pedometer. It's interesting. So what they've done in Hey Pikmin is tried to make levels where you go collect a couple of things, like you try to find these hidden things like you do in real Pikmin. But a lot of the mechanics of Pikmin and a lot of the core elements of Pikmin do not stick. So for instance, there is no leaving your Pikmin somewhere to go do activity on their own. You don't bring Pikmin with you into every level. Yes, this is the 3DS game. You don't bring the Pikmin that you had, or you can't bring Pikmin into every level. It was Pikmin with more stuff. Interesting. What game was that, Nate? And really, there's like Olimar's Jetpack, which makes it a little more platformy. I think there is merit to trying to do a 2D Pikmin game. I think they did it wrong. I think what you need to do for 2D Pikmin game to make it more. Oh, is it the Wild at Heart, Nate? To make it more Pikmin-y is to make a Metroidvania Pikmin. I think that's the way that you can do it. And this game really did not do that. So, I'm going to put this one in C. Farmagia? Never heard of it. Alright, next one. Inspector Gadget, Gadget's Crazy Maze. It's a little puzzle game. It's not designed well. Ark made me play this one. He was like, hey, I had this as a kid. It was fun. We gotta play it. And so we played it. And boy, is it weird. The controls are weird. That's great, kid. And lives, it has lives, and they suck in that game. Because it's a lot of like trying to figure out the puzzle, and if you don't figure it out, you die, and if you die, you have to game over, and then you come back, and all it is menuing through the system again. It's gross. Levels are timed, which is real easy to die on, but you can just pause it and figure out the solutions. Yeah, it's not designed very well or programmed very well, but we had some fun with the game. It's definitely not like horrendous, and you can definitely beat it. So I'm gonna put it in C tier as well, and move on to the next one, which is Kit's Quest. Kit's Quest, very fun. I had a great time playing that game. It's an indie collectathon 3D platformer with Rareware inspiration. I liked all the power-ups. They felt very original, especially the hydrophobic mushroom power-up. I think that was really cool. The areas were all unique. I like going between areas through the back doors to find hidden collectibles, which was really cool. They like all were connected. It does a great job of helping you clean up missing collectibles by giving hints and upgrades to find them. Only things I didn't particularly like were the juxtaposition between the realistic texturing on animals and the stylized texturing on maps. The platforming could be a little janky, mostly because of the character being long as a fox. And I ran into a glitch where the game was unplayable lag in some areas that I had to reboot the game to fix. That was just a me problem. Nobody else was saying that was a problem. No idea why that was happening. This is one of the few games that I speedran this year. It was a new run that I learned, and it was fun, and I'm looking forward to doing more in the future. And this is an A tier game. It's definitely not as good as Ape Escape or Astrobot, so it's an A tier, but had fun, for sure. Yeah, what's up, CC? There are a lot of spiders in the game, too. If you are arachnophobic, too bad. Can you add Animal Well to the list? I didn't play Animal Well. Oh, I thought you meant to the tier list. The list right now is only 3D platformers. So, for that reason, no, for now. Eventually, I'm going to add 2D platformers to it. Yeah, one day I will open the 2D list. The 2D list will be exclusively good 2D platformers, though. I'll play bad 3D platformers. I want to play good 2D platformers. Good or genre defining. Like, I want to play Mario 1. I've never beaten Mario 1. Alright, next up, Luigi's Mansion 3. Oh, you know what? While we're still in this break, before we get onto that. I'm sorry, CC. One of my goals for this year was to play more games than last year. That's why I stopped speedrunning as much this year. I wanted to play more variety of games than I did last year. And last year I played 24. This year was 30. 2022 was 36. So we hit a very even center right there. I still want to do it, Kit. I'm sorry I kind of just threw it away from the list. I didn't want to spend the money on it this year, and I also didn't have the time that I would have liked to for it. I think you know more about what was happening at that time that I don't want to get into. It's not a thing that happened to me specifically, but it was a family event that was going on. So, all right, moving on from that, going into Luigi's Mansion 3. I played this one in co-op with my wife. It is fun. It is a little tough sometimes. It's fun, but it's not like really fun, is what I have to say, I guess. There's a lot to explore, a lot to find. It plays pretty well overall. I wasn't a fan of the final boss. I wish the game had a little more interactivity between floors, or more upgrades gained throughout the playthrough, and more variety of enemies. The only floor and mechanic I hated was the desert level and sand and pushing it around to make hills. It didn't work very well, and it was very slow. Luigi's Mansion 3, you're in a hotel, and between floors there is very, very, very little interaction. There's some exception to that from like floors basement 1 to 3 or 2 or something. And those were cool, but then the rest of them, they were like very segmented levels. And again, the enemies, there were very few types of enemies in that game. They're bosses, and the bosses had a lot of the same fight. There was very little interaction with other things. So overall, for me, this game is B tier. I enjoyed it about the same as I enjoyed these other things. But yeah, that's where I have it. Next up is Moving Out. This game I cannot rate accurately. So I don't want anybody to take my opinion on Moving Out very seriously. I've played it for half an hour. Moving Out is a game that is like one of those goofy physics games where you try to load a truck with people's stuff. You're a moving crew. And it's like we play it in co-op kind of thing. I tried to play it with my wife. She immediately got so stressed out by the timer and trying to communicate with me that she'd quit. She couldn't do it. We literally beat 2 levels and she was done. You should do it, Game Time. It seems like fun to me. It is not her cup of tea. I do want to try it with 4 people. I think doing it with 4 people would be really fun. I've not played Overcooked. I was thinking about trying that with her at some point. I'm going to put this one in B tier. I think it could move up. That was weird. I think it could move up. Do you really, Game Time? Yeah, I probably don't want to play it with my wife, but I'll try it with her. I'll get it on sale or something when I get a Steam Deck. That's one of my goals, is to get a Steam Deck one day. Yeah, see, I don't know if she's going to enjoy chaotic nonsense. She likes sense. She does not like nonsense. Yo, Suika game, that's on my last year's tier list. You can go check that out if you want. Alright, the next one up is Pode. Pode is it's a co-op game. It's a little bit 3D platformery, a little bit puzzly. Some of the puzzles felt like I was breaking the game or got really lucky. CC, knowing what I need to do for my financial well-being and future is why I can't afford a Steam Deck. I have enough money in my bank account to buy several Steam Decks, but I'm trying to do things that are going to make it so that I could buy Steam. Not actually buy Steam. I'm not actually going to... I have no way to get that much off of just what the standard plan would be here, but I would be able to buy whatever I want, you know? Whatever I realistically want is the plan eventually. Like a Pokemon Snap blockbuster kiosk, right, CC? CC and I were talking about that in the Pokemon Snap Discord earlier. I could do that, Game Time. Give me 10 years. All right, Pode. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. It doesn't run very well on the Switch. It's a fun little puzzle 3D platformer game. And it's... I guess I should explain what the game is a little bit. It is definitely like a co-op focused game. It's... You play as... One person plays as a rock, the other person plays as a ball of light, and they work together with their different abilities to do things. So the rock activates rock things going on, the light activates plant things going on, and the rock can eat other little rocks to like spit them out into switches. It's heavier, so it lands on switches. The light can jump further, it shines, it has a teleport function. Really cool little puzzle game. There's some places that I just felt like I was breaking the game, so it's even progress. So overall, Pode, B-tier game, fun co-op thing if you do need to, if you want to find something to play with your significant other or something, Pode's a good one. Definitely not the best one I've played, but it's good. Speaking of co-op games, I just want to say really quick, I am very excited for Split Fiction from the people that made It Takes Two. It Takes Two is one of... It's top 3 co-op games for me, for sure. Or games that I've played in co-op with my wife, I guess. Sai, why do you even know about Little Rock, Arkansas? Yeah, It Takes Two also won Game of the Year. Alright, next up, Pokemon TCG Live. Little Rock is the state capital of a state that people in England forget exist. What are you talking about, Sai? I know a lot about the world from my education. There's so many students in the US that blame the school system for not teaching them anything, and they just straight up didn't listen. Sorry. Pokemon TCG Live. It's the Pokemon trading card game online. It's got a ranking system. It is very, 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 very free-to-play friendly. And that is the most important thing. If you buy physical Pokemon cards, great. You can use them to update your repertoire of cards in the game. If you don't have to. You can earn rewards by playing. You can earn crystals by playing. You get everything by playing the game. And I've built every deck that I've ever wanted to on the game, just without paying a single dime of money. I guess I technically have spent a dime of money. I bought this because I wanted to buy this, and then I put the codes into the game. That's it. And the pre-release codes. But it was all things that I wanted to buy anyways. It's not things that I went out to buy to pay for things in the game. I didn't need them at all. I have so much extra dust to buy things. Anyways, Pokemon TCG as a card game, very fun. The live system, really good. It doesn't... It's a little glitchy occasionally. So, overall S tier. I enjoyed it a lot. How many TCG games have there been? I remember, I only know of two. There was TCG Online and TCG Live. TCG Live replaced TCG Online, is my understanding. Yeah. Kid would know more about it for sure. I keep feeling like I say kid instead of kit today, so. I too had one from the 90s. It's sitting right here. If you'd like it, let me know. It's for sale. Alright, next up, Princess Peach Showtime. Princess Peach Showtime was a disappointment. So, I'm remembering back a little bit to new Pokemon Snap. They announced new Pokemon Snap. I was like, this is going to be fantastic. I loved Pokemon Snap the original. I've done some speedruns of Pokemon Snap the original. It's going to be a great time. And then it came out, and it was good, but I didn't fall in love with it. I know Sai thinks it's the best game on the Switch, and that's great for Sai, but I did not fall in love with new Pokemon Snap like Sai did. And because my expectation was a 10 out of 10 game, and then it ended up being like an 8 out of 10 game, it was a 7 out of 10 game for me. If I had an expectation that it was going to be a 6 out of 10 game, and then it was an 8 out of 10 game, I would have thought it was a 9 out of 10 game. You know what I mean? But because of how I... Hi, Mia. Mia has broken in. Hi, baby. See ya. Bye, I love you. Ketchup, you're a math teacher. By the way, Ketchup, tell your students to play 4 equals 10 and go play it yourself. It's a good time. So Princess Peach Showtime, I wrote some thoughts down. It was a decently fun game, but it lacked a lot of depth. I liked the costumes. The costumes being you dress up and do like a level based on what you dress up as. So there's Cowgirl Peach and you do Cowgirl stuff. There's Sword Fighter Peach, you do Sword Fighter stuff. There's Baker Peach, you do Baker Peach stuff. So Kit, I guess real quick, my problem with new Pokemon Snap is that it's too hard to find everything. The hints are not great enough. So all of the things in Princess Peach Showtime had 1 or maybe 2 functions, and the gameplay was very repetitive with those because there was very little to do. Going back to find all of the stuff in every level, it was really hard because it's so story-based, which is very bland story. It was really annoying to go back because there's no skips. There are certain things, especially with Patisserie Peach. There was one level where you had to make all the cookies. Just all of them. And it was so hard, and I had to restart that level several times. It was the only hard thing in the game, by the way. I don't know why it came out of nowhere, but it was the hardest thing. But yeah, you get these little sparkly things or whatever. Anyways, there was way too much to go back and find and do, and way too little help doing that. And overall, I think that the game felt like it was made for children with very little content for older players. And compare that to something like Mario Odyssey, where kids can play it and enjoy it a lot, and adults can play it and enjoy it a lot. And the reason my expectations were so high for Princess Peach Showtime is because it was made by the same company that made Yoshi's Woolly World, which is my favorite game of all time. So, my disappointment was immeasurable and my day was ruined. is C tier game. Silo of the Sybils. Yeah, exactly. I was excited for Peach to have a big moment too, because the last game we had was Super Princess Peach, which we'll get to in a minute, and I wanted it to be better than that. And spoiler, it's not better than that. Silo Sybil, shout out to the Ketchup for requesting this. Easily the longest we've spent on a 3D platformer on stream. Ketchup single-handedly set us back 3 months on 3D platformer requests. Didn't need to be set back 3 months because we were already 6 months behind when we started Silo Sybil. However, as hard as that game is, as hard as all of the levels were, as grueling as that game is, I loved it to death. I think that game is phenomenal. I hate Crash. Silo Sybil is Crash inspired, but it took everything that Crash did wrong and fixed it. Except maybe some depth perception. So here's my direct notes that I have on the game. Extremely difficult game with an extremely limited moveset that somehow creates unique and exciting experience throughout the whole adventure. Although I don't like Crash much, this heavily Crash-inspired game is fun. Even just beating the game is more brutal than almost every 3D platformer 100% I've ever done, which is a lot. All in all, very fun game if you're ready for a crazy difficult experience. My only complaints are the hitboxes on a few enemies are too difficult, and the run towards the screen sections are far less fun because they mess with perspective too much and are too unreactable. That's it. The complaints there, you can't complain about difficult game being difficult. It is difficult for the right reasons almost all the time. And for that reason, it is S tier. Next up is Sniffer Clips, which is a decent little puzzle game. It was really funny. My wife and I played this together, and we were playing, and we stopped playing for like 3 months. And we came back, and we had 6 levels to finish. Out of like 60, there were like 6 left. And that's just so funny when you come back to that. But it was fun. It is a little annoying trying to... You do get to finagle. You get to come up with some goofy solutions to puzzles. So it's pretty fun. It's definitely not a Game of the Year type material at all. It is a B tier game for me. It lacks some depth to like the content in it, especially for the price. So fun if you have the money for it. If you find it on sale somehow because it's a Nintendo game, get it. But yeah, pretty neat. Sonic Unleashed, you already know what's happening. We'll put it there now and then we'll talk about it. I have a long review on this one. I played Sonic Unleashed as a kid, came back to it both times on the Wii. Most frustrating part of the game is motion controls for basic movements. I hate that. Donkey Kong Country Returns would have been a stellar game if it wasn't motion controls for movements. I can't count motion controls for movements against Sonic Unleashed because I don't own a Pro Controller and the game does allow you to use it, which would be no motion controls. Outside of that, the game almost functions. There are far too many deaths from inputs, including button inputs, just not doing anything for an indiscernible reason. Yeah, motion controls for movements that don't work. The daytime Sonic levels have the same issue that every Sonic game does, where it's too fast and you end up needing to memorize the level to get through it, or you can go slow, which defeats the purpose of playing a Sonic game due to being it's Sonic's only gameplay-defining trait. The nighttime Sonic levels were more fun because they contained some platforming got broken up too much from the same set of 4 or 5 enemies that have the same 2 songs playing the entire playthrough. Almost every in-between level felt like it was a complete waste of my time because there's nothing of value from talking to people, especially when the long loads between actions exist. Also, lives being in the game, being 3 tries until a game over isn't horrible, but the amount of loading screens you have to go through after you die by being sent back to the main menu is atrocious. Yeah, Wii version of Sonic Unleashed is notably considered bad overall, and the 360 version is considered better. So if we were to go back and revisit Sonic Unleashed, it would be the better version. We'll get back to overall feelings towards anti-game of the year in a little bit. All right, next up, Mario Galaxy 2. Mario Galaxy 2, as usual, phenomenal game. This is one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time. I personally believe that this is a straight improvement compared to Mario Galaxy 1. The movement's better, the level design's better, the physics are better. The green stars are fun to send you back to through levels that you've already beaten. I don't like... Here's the things I don't like about the game. Battle Belt Galaxy, having to use motion controls to spin, massive delay between playing each star, which I really, really hate that one, by the way. And having a massive star bit requirement to unlock the final level in the game that... what did I write here? Having a massive star bit requirement to unlock the final level that the game does not make clear to you to do. It doesn't tell you that you need to do that to get the final level. So those are my complaints. The massive delay between each star and that final level thing are the things that really, really make it awful. Those things are awful, specifically. They don't make the game awful. Obviously, it's S tier. I really enjoy the game. Next up, Super Princess Peach. The game's pretty fun. It has some unique mechanics with the emotions being the 4 different powers, and you get a lot of collectibles to do 100%, which I did do 100% of the game. I liked having bonus levels after beating the game, but having to replay every level to get collectibles in the same locations was not interesting or fun. That's a thing that you have to do. If you've beaten the game, you have to replay every level to get all the collectibles. And they're in the same location as collectibles were in originally. They just put another collectible where a collectible already was. The power-ups didn't end up having too much utility. I think it could have been used a lot better. And I didn't like the mini-games were required for 100%. There were also so many pick-a-pipe sections. It was literally just get in a warp pipe. It might put you back at the entrance, or it might make you progress. Who knows? And there's like 10 pipes, 12 pipes. Why did they do that? Who knows? The movement and moves were decent, and the levels had some fun mechanics and exploration. That still let me have a good time with it. Yeah, mini-games being required for 100% was really annoying. There was one... So, one of them was a stylus. This is a Switch, but we'll pretend it's a DS. There's one you had to drag a toad through a maze, and if you touch the side, you die. That one was kind of fun. There was one... Oh, you had to shoot a slingshot at targets. That one was fine. The last one was really annoying, because what you were supposed to do was blow into the mic to make a toad jump. And the only thing worse than motion controls is blow controls. It was so bad. What I ended up doing was I took the DS, and instead of blowing into the mic, because I was blowing. If I blow into the mic, it's going to hurt your ears, so I'm not going to do it. But I was like blowing to get the toad to jump, and he just wouldn't jump when he needed to. It was semi-precise, too. So what I ended up doing, instead of blow, was scream. So I was just going, ah, 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 ah. And my wife had to leave the room. She couldn't take it. And that's what I ended that game on. So, overall, B tier game. The minigame thing did not hurt it that much. But it was... there were some moments that were not fun in that game. Because we were... it's just not... The mechanics weren't interestingly used. They were interesting mechanics, but they were not used well. Next up, we have The Hobbit. Here's what I wrote for The Hobbit. Thank you, Dark Force. This game was pretty fun most of the time, but the negatives were strong. This is one of the few games where I thought the stealth sections were implemented well to be inclusive of platforming elements as well, which was very reminiscent of Sly Cooper, which we haven't played on 3D platformer list, but I have played. The platforming, although very limited, was fun, and finding where to go and having story direct your path was fun. By the way, I've not seen The Hobbit or read The Hobbit, so this was my experience with the game, or with the story of The Hobbit. There was always some hidden areas to explore, which is great to see. The Smaug level was a great climax of the game and made me think it was the end, but unfortunately the rest of the game was rough after that. Huge downfalls found throughout the game would be that you can softlock yourself by saving at the wrong time, and the fact that saving is your only checkpoint and it's slow to save. The second level of the game was way too hard if you didn't go out of your way to do quests in the first level. The Flies and Spider level was by far the most atrocious level in the game due to combat in the game not being flushed out, combined with the most annoying possible enemy in the game. The Gathering of the Clouds, which is the level name, was also an annoying level because most of the puzzles were wait on a minecart and find a small item with no hints as to where to look. You've reached double digits? Congratulations, Nate. Are ROM hacks allowed on the list? Yes. I didn't play any, though. If you actually go back to my 2023 games, my game of the year was DK64 Randomizer. So overall, The Hobbit, I put in B tier. I do think it's fun. I think it has a lot of good to it, but it also had some bad to it. So there's really two ways a game gets to B tier. It's either there's nothing really wrong with this game, but it didn't really impress me, or it's this game impressed me at moments, but then the other moments made it really hard to continue. And that one, The Hobbit is the latter. Is there a way to add to the list? Oh, to the 3D platformer list. You tell me, and I say if it's allowed or not. I told Bunko earlier that Seal World is allowed. I need to remember to put that on there. Hey, Kit, can you update the command for the queue to put Seal World into the queue thing? That'll help me remember. Oh, you can also take Earthworm Jim 3D off of there. Squirrel with a Gun is not on there yet. That's true. I haven't updated significantly on the list. Yeah. Anyways. Next up is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Mario Sunshine Eclipse. Okay. I can play that on Dolphin, I'm sure. I've heard it's a lot of fun, so I'm pretty down to play that one. I will not call that an indie game. I will call that a ROM hack. So it will be the full channel point redemption. So no need to rush for the sale thing if you don't have enough points yet. So, okay. Anyways, we're getting down to the end here. Oh yeah, Sai, are you going to do it now before Kit updates the command? Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I really enjoyed this game. I think it is an extremely fun game. I'm sorry that you did not enjoy it as much as I did, CC. But it is what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom tried to do, but at the scale of a regular Zelda game. By giving you the ability to solve puzzles your own way. It's a very pretty world. The characters have a lot to them, relatively. It's like, I mean, the standard guy in a village isn't in-depth character, but there's still like story happening. There's people that live in a world. Gotcha. I understand, CC. Concept of the game is very fun. It is much simpler to me to list the negatives than all the positives. Here's a small spoiler if you are playing the game and don't want spoiled. I will put my hand down when I finish saying the spoiler. The final boss was very hyped up, but it did not live up to the hype at all when you actually fought it. That was the worst part of the game for sure. Okay, we're back from spoiler territory. The menu is a little slow to navigate. I found workarounds. I found ways to navigate it better. I think everybody can do that, so I'm not super worried about that one. And then the mini games that exist in the game don't have retry buttons. So if you lose them, you have to load into the regular world again. You have to talk to the guy again. You have to load back into the minigame world again. And then you have to try the minigame again. No worries, Sup. None of those things were game ruining by any means, and it's why my rating for this game is very high, and I do think it is one of the best Zelda games ever made. As far as the combat goes, for what CC said, I did not dislike the way that the game made you do combat. Especially as you get further into the game, it gets better. It feels like you are getting upgraded as a character. You get to do more and you get to have more options. It makes the combat feel more enjoyable to me. And honestly, it's a little bit like a puzzle. The whole game is more puzzly than other Zelda games, and I liked that. Puzzly, but you figure out the solution through any means necessary. Okay. Next on the list, Tin and Kuna. Very underrated, underpurchased, and under-reviewed game. So if you are interested in playing a cool game, check out Tin and Kuna. It is a cool 3D puzzle platformer with a limited but creative suite of movement options. Had a lot of fun figuring out the puzzles, doing time trials, finding unintended ways to plow through levels. And this game, I love finding those ways to do that, and this game allows it significantly. It had a little glitchiness with the camera flashing. The Switch port loaded very slowly, which forced me to buy the Steam version. And parts of the game didn't feel fully finished or fleshed out. Like, bosses were less interactive than the rest. And level 11 seems to have no intended route to completion. I don't know what the intended route is. We searched for an hour of just trying to figure out, what are you supposed to do here? We found a way to beat the level, but it didn't seem intended. So, overall, I think the game is A tier. I enjoy it a lot as a speedrun, but for just playing a casual game and my initial experience with the game, it was an A tier game. Next up, Toy Story 3. Like we were saying about The Hobbit, where it's one of those things, The Hobbit is like has high highs and low lows. It's the opposite of that, where there's nothing to the game. Nothing special caught my eye. Nothing was too terrible about it. Controls were a bit rigid. The design is very straightforward. Only issue I ran into was jumping off of ledges. Sometimes it just didn't work right. Overall, nothing horrendous that would put it into D tier, but nothing making it get out of C tier. And the last one we have for the list is Untitled Goose Game. Now, so far, first of all, I love that A tier is just 3D platformer, 3D platformer indie games. Untitled Goose Game, at its core, is a stealth puzzle game. I played it in co-op with my wife, who did not want to be stealthy. She had never played a stealth game in her life. She had no idea how to do stealth stuff, and she just wanted to push forward, and the game does not allow you to do that. So it was harder for me to enjoy the stealth parts of puzzling. But I did have a good time with the silliness. But overall, I didn't like Untitled Goose Game as much as other people do. And honestly, I'm not a stealth game guy as a general rule, because I'm too impatient to do that. And for me, this game is in B tier. Of all of these games, that's the one that's going to get me the Twitter hate this year. I always have them. I always have something that gets me in trouble. But did you really, Kit? It's hard. It might, maybe sometimes it's harder in co-op than it is in solo for that. I did not try it solo. I only played co-op. So that's 30 games, guys. That's what we played this year. We do have to do Game of the Year and Anti-Game of the Year. We're going to start with Anti-Game of the Year. Yeah, I might try that, CC. I think that would make the... Like, I didn't 100% the game because there were timed missions, and timed missions in stealth with 2 people and 1 person that wants to rush everything and would be stressed out with time it's not great. So I would try that on my own maybe, but definitely not with her. So anyways, this year we're going to start with Anti-Game of the Year. There's only 2 options this year. In previous years, let me find previous years. Can I get these on the screen easily? Perfect. There's 2021. There's 2022. And there's 2023. Previous years, we would have had 4 options, 5 options, and 3 options. Those are on the screen, right? Yeah. This year we only have 2. The Game of the Year, there were 5 here, 4 here, and 5 here. And this year we have 6. So we had quite a bit of difference here, where a lot less awful games and a lot more great games. And honestly, the B tier consistently, well, I guess this year we played a lot of like good stuff. And this year too. B tier this year, we played a lot of mid games this year. And a good amount of really good stuff too with A and S tier. Anyways, I'm gonna quit dwaddling here. In D tier, there's Earthworm Jim 3D, which I did not finish, or come even close, because I had a ton of technical problems, and Sonic Unleashed. I can't give Earthworm Jim the Anti-Game of the Year, because I couldn't finish it to know how much worse or better it got. There was a lot of cool and good things about Earthworm Jim 3D. But there's a ton of terrible things, which is why it's in D tier right now. But because a lot of those things are technical issues that caused me to enjoy it like that, I'm going to go with Sonic Unleashed being the Anti-Game of the Year. Because it wasn't technical issues that caused it to go down that far. When we play Earthworm Jim 3D again, it will be on the N64, and it might be worse. I will change my answer if it's worse sub. But yeah, right now, we're going to put Sonic Unleashed for the Wii in Anti-Game of the Year. Now, I do want to say, Sonic Unleashed is better than The Incredibles, Madagascar 2 for sure, Space Station Silicon Valley, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, Bullfrog, Frogger, Sonic Adventure DX, and Vex. It might not be better than Sonic Adventure DX. It's definitely better than Frogger and Vex. Space Station Silicon Valley and you shuddered? Yeah. Battle for Neighborville was a very mediocre single player experience or co op experience. So, I do want to say that with reference to how bad Sonic Unleashed was, it was not nearly the worst game that I've ever played. And at the top, the game of the year, we're going to put everything in there first. Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, or Live, PCTCGL, is not really a Game of the Year quality game. It is an existence that is very welcome and helpful to play the trading card game, but I wouldn't say that it is a necessity or a great standalone thing like Hearthstone could have been. So for that reason, it's going to stay in S tier. Mario Galaxy 2 is something that I've played before, and it does have some downsides to it. And I think it has more downsides than the other 3D platformers in this list. It will not be my game of the year. I gotta think. Ape Escape. It was the foundation for an extremely good series, and it is a fantastic game on its own, but it is not my game of the year. It has a lot of merit and it has a lot of paving the way forward, but I don't think that Ape Escape 1 is better than these 3 games. Silo Sybil has a few problems, and those few problems are, you can't overlook them. And when the game is as frustrating as Silo Sybil is by design, when something is not functional in the way that it feels that it should be, it makes it feel so much worse for it to not work. For example, the final boss in Silo Sybil, the second phase, where you just get hit by a bite that doesn't even look close to you. So frustrating. Now, if the game was easy, you could go, oh, okay, well, I can just avoid that. It's bad, but whatever. But if a game that's already frustrating, it's tough. So, Silo Sybil will not be my game of the year. Astrobot is the game of the year by the Game Awards. Zelda is a fantastic addition to the Zelda series, and I very much enjoy that game. It is very tough to say which of these is a better game, but for me, I have one that I enjoyed more than the other for sure. One of these games I enjoyed way more than all the other games on this list for sure. And the thing that holds back the other one is that I don't have the nostalgia for the PlayStation stuff that is going to put Astrobot as Game of the Year. So Zelda is my Game of the Year. Interestingly, also came out this year. I guess Sammy came out, we put that as Game of the Year, and Arceus came out and put that as Game of the Year. So maybe we have gotten new Game of the Years type material from that. Yeah, this is... Astrobot is extremely good. I don't want to take anything away from that. But I did enjoy Zelda a lot. It is my second favorite Zelda behind Twilight Princess. And honestly, if you took a look at that list I mentioned earlier, if you look at that top 20, it's number 6. This may shift around a little bit. It might go down to number 7 or 8 at some point. But as of when I completed it, I loved it so much to put it all the way up here in my top 20 games of all time. I think it is such an excellent addition to the franchise, and I think it's such an excellent game that did what I loved about Tears of the Kingdom without all of the terrible things that I hated about Tears of the Kingdom. It had Zelda. It was a Zelda game that's not... It's a game that was like other Zeldas outside of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and did the things that I liked from those games, and added it to that style. So, yeah, very, very good game. Astrobot is fighting to be in the top 20, by the way. I can't figure out if it is or not. It might be over Pokemon Shield or Little Neva's Dream Master. I think I like It Takes Two more than Astrobot. Also, this one's cheating to be in the top 20 because it's Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix. Why is Pokemon Shield even there? I love Pokemon Shield. I had a lot of hours in Pokemon Shield. I enjoyed raiding. I enjoyed the competitive. In the trash or on eBay? No, it's on the shelf. I still have Incredibles, but it should be in the trash. That was a really good one. Yeah, Snap is on there, CC. I loved Pokemon Snap. I agree, Sup. Kids over here like, oh, Pokemon Platinum? Disgusting. Okay. I'm going to take a quick BRB. Bunko, it'll cost you $30 plus shipping for a signed copy. I'm going to take a quick BRB, use the bathroom, and I'm going to come back and talk about goals and plans for 2025.